Captain Forest here, and in today's video I've got a special Halloween matchup to drop on the channel today folks, and in today's video I'm going to be going over who I think wins more often not in a crossverse situation, Trigon versus Dormammu. Now if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for the content. Also, huge shout out to HQ Squad, massive shouts to the team. They've been a huge help in my videos, so much appreciate to them. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get right into Trigon, talk about some of his monster feats and all that crazy stuff. So Trigon managed to spawn across many universes by impregnating women with his seed. He is like water, being able to change the shape of his container, but in this case it's evil and not water. Trigon is called the ruler of the 5 underrealms and is shown with his 3 sons, Belial, Raskoff and Sergei. Trigon has explained that he has been around before time even existed, and that he has devoured the afterlife from his people. After the people of Azeroth released the darkness and the evil from their hearts, Trigon was formless evil energy. Afterwards, he was shaped into being by the heart of darkness, which is made of every evil deed from nearly 100 galaxies. It should be noted that it wasn't just in one galaxy, as the heart of darkness has crushed universes as well to move to the next, gaining more evil. The Baron states that Trigon is an evil that is beyond any he's ever suffered before, and notes that Trigon will destroy the balance of good and evil, and that Trigon will destroy everything. Trigon notes that he is the greatest threat that the universe will know. Raven states that Trigon is Satan only to the 100th power, and considering how she has history with Neuron, this pretty much seems to be pretty accurate in this case. And also, referring back to what the Baron was stating, he's referring to the great evil beast and the presence. So Swamp Thing was the one that ensured that they created a truce to prevent the great darkness from plunging the world into complete darkness, to the hand that represents God, aka the light presence, and the hand that represents evil, the great evil beast. So basically Swamp Thing made them shake hands and be friends, and the Baron himself notes that Trigon will destroy the balance of good and evil and will destroy everything. Trigon would at least be above the great evil beast, aka Empty Hand. Potentially you could even argue the presence, however that's just up to interpretation. But you know, like, even if we lowball and say it's just the great evil beast, that is still impressive regardless. This in turn would pretty much obviously make him definitely a match for Empty Hand, and he would also scale above Darkseid as well, especially since Empty Hand pretty much bodied Darkseid in their fight. So we got some really good creation level scaling already for Trigon. To further add on, Trigon is also an avatar of the Great Darkness, and some of that power carried over to Trigon's daughter Raven. Raven inherited the darkness, and it cannot harm her. Raven demonstrates that she is able to absorb the Great Darkness's influence from John. The dark energies in fact empower her. She also talks about the darkness that resides inside a human soul, drawing her near it. So that's pretty impressive. Some really good stuff for Trigon, especially in the new run, which was the Dark Crisis Green. Some really good statements and some more elaboration on Trigon and Raven. So they definitely got some upgrades throughout DC, which is pretty good. Trigon is shown to feed on the darkness and evil of others, which empowers him. He can siphon power from his own realm, which makes him stronger. He can do this to other planes of reality, such as stealing souls. He can steal life from Earth to empower him, and he can also empower his own realm by taking power from other realms and pretty much reseeding it into his own, which is pretty cool. Trigon is shown to use attack reflection, such as reflecting back Cyborg's attack back on him. Trigon is shown to use his opponent's powers against them, such as manipulating Brick's own powers into himself. Trigon can fire a laser, which upon contact disperses you to atoms through the light stream, so that they are alive forever and they will continue to basically torment and suffer forever in this endless loop, which is actually pretty disgusting. Trigon can also project hellfire from his eyes. Hellfire itself in DC can pretty much burn you down to a physical and spiritual level. Trigon can also torture and torment his victims, and Trigon is the personification of evil. He is the darkness in every creature's soul. He has type 3 and 8 immortality. As long as evil exists, Trigon will always reform. The evil in people is what gives Trigon form. He cannot be killed. Even when Trigon's body was slain, the energy from his body could not be destroyed. Trigon is shown to regenerate from being stabbed in the brain and eyes, and Trigon has managed to spawn across many universes, as mentioned, by impregnating women with his seed. So pretty much he will always come back, he'll always replace himself even if he dies, and as long as evil exists, he will always reform. So that's some really good immortality stuff. Now we've seen Trigon resist Raven's mother, and later Raven and her mother alongside Donna, draining his power and dampening his will. Trigon has shown to analyze his opponents. Trigon can mind control his opponents by placing chains on them. If Trigon is destroyed, he can pretty much corrupt and spread his seed throughout others, and he will manifest himself. Another thing I want to mention as well is literally trying to absorb Trigon is pretty bad, as he can just pretty much corrupt you. So there's that to take in note as well. So Trigon's pretty difficult to deal with in certain categories, I must say. But moving on, Trigon has also shown some pretty interesting resistances, and in order to understand what those type of resistances he has, I must talk about Magik and how it works in DC. So Magik is the fundamental power of creation and belief in the multiverse. It is tied into every aspect of existence. Magik is empowered by belief. Magik defies the impossible, and when using Magik, the user is manipulating reality to their own accord. The reason there are rules in Magik is because people can give Magik rules. So inherently, there's some law hacks, some law manipulation, and law properties with Magik, and causality manipulation. So why am I mentioning all of this? This is because Trigon himself has resisted the effects of Magik from Dr. Fate and Raven's mother, which in turn warding off the additional hexes behind their Magik. So that's some really good resistances that Trigon has under his sleeve, which is pretty impressive. Another thing I want to show as well is Trigon. He's literally shown to resist Donna Troy's lasso of persuasion. The lasso forces the opponent to follow the user's command, so once they get snared by it, and we literally see Trigon just flex it off. So Trigon, pretty built different, has some really good resistances, and pretty much last thing I want to go over as well, speed pretty much easily immeasurable, irrelevant. He's fighting characters who are literal creation level. He's gone up against characters who have their own irrelevant and immeasurable speed feats, so it's pretty self-explanatory. He's not slow in any capacity. So that's going to round up Trigon. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Dormammu and see what he brings to the table. So in order to gauge where Dormammu would be placed around in the Marvel cosmology, I'm going to talk about some things, I'm going to talk about some feats. So yeah, I'm going to get right into it. So the Dark Dimension is a state of existence where neither time or matter is real. It's many infinities away from another realm which was described as nameless, timeless, and unimaginable distance away. The Dark Dimension is beyond human comprehension. The realm in itself contains an infinite amount of dimensions. It's beyond the transfinite spatial planes of Marvel's multiverse. Dormammu's true form is once more stated to be a higher dimensional, as he views time and space as insignificant pieces of geometry. More consistency to the Dark Dimension being as large and far away can be shown with Dormammu being one of the Hell Lords, who is one of the stronger ones. It's even stated that Dormammu should be more than a match than 5 Hell Lords, including both Mephisto and Hela. Mephisto even notes he'd need all his tricks for Dormammu too. There are more feats for Dormammu, such as the time he flexed his powers at the Avengers and one-shot the likes of Silver Surfer, Namor, Hulk, Valkyrie, and Doctor Strange. We've seen Dormammu ragdoll Savage Hulk and casually turn him into crystal. He's demonstrated he does not fear Hulk in any capacity. Dormammu was able to overpower Magik and control her with his powers. Magik herself has been able to affect her own round limbo. In fact, I go over the scaling in my Raven vs Magik video on Korin's channel, so please check that out. I go into incredible detail behind the 1S scaling. Dormammu was also powerful enough to power null and strip the powers of Thor and Iron Man with just a gesture. So pretty much he has some really good scaling of his own. I will break it down more thoroughly in my analysis. So let's move on to some hexes. So easily, Dormammu, as mentioned, he has power nullification tactics. He can blast you with this magic and then pretty much just revoke your powers. So it's pretty potent stuff. He can also shoot out this poison thingy-majig, which basically just shoots out poison and it just incapacitates his opponents. Dormammu can also use transmutation to turn you into a ball of energy. Dormammu can use mind control, such as controlling Magik, who is a very powerful mutant in her own right. Dormammu also has some sealing hexes, and he can also seal you inside of a barrier. Dormammu also notes that he can also erase people from existence, such as the time he was going to erase Doctor Strange from existence. So he's got some pretty nasty existence erasure abilities, and if you attempt to absorb any of Dormammu's powers, it'll make you go insane. So he does have some small counters to people trying to absorb his energy. Now Dormammu's attacks pretty much are magical and they're pretty much conceptual, so they have some conceptual properties behind it. And of course, he's shown to use offensive and defensive means in combat, such as creating barriers to intercept his opponents. He's also shown to have precognition thanks to his mystic senses. It alerts him to any threats before they occur. It pretty much helps him in pretty difficult situations. Now lastly, Dormammu has type 8 immortality and mid to high godly regeneration. So pretty much Dormammu stems from the evil within the hearts of mankind. So again, he's very difficult to kill. He's also fundamental and necessary in the world, and because of that, he will always come back. So that's going to round up both Trigon and Dormammu. I'm going to go ahead and move on and talk about who I think wins more often than not in a crossverse situation. So based off attack potency, they both have pretty relative AP. They can easily be argued to high ultraversal, easily boundless scaling, pretty relative, and pretty high into the tier. Especially with extraversal, they both have some really good extraversal scaling, so I don't really think AP is going to be an issue. They both have the means to hurt each other. Speed, again, irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They both have shown immeasurable to relevant speed feats, so I don't think speed's going to be the deciding factor in any capacity. Now what I think is going to be the most important in this matchup, and the important meat on the bone, is the hexes, the resistances, and how the fight will eventually devolve and who will take victory more often than not. Dormammu has some pretty nasty hexes. They can definitely be a match for Trigon. They definitely be able to affect him in some capacity. However, this is the thing. Trigon, he's very difficult to put down. He has a lot of resistances of his own. He has a lot of complex resistances too, so it makes it pretty difficult for Dormammu to even affect him. Another factor I want to mention as well for Trigon also gets amped when he's around like darkness, so pretty much evil, darkness and death. Dormammu himself represents all evil, pretty much. He's an evil person, so Dormammu being in the vicinity of the fight would inherently amp Trigon, and if the fight happens in the dark dimension, that's even worse. I think that's very counterintuitive for Dormammu, because Trigon would just grow exponentially in power, and it could be an issue where he would take AP if it came down to that scenario. So I think a lot of things for Dormammu, it's kind of counterintuitive, unfortunately, so that could be an issue. Now obviously I mentioned before, hey, what about the thing where if you absorb Dormammu's powers you'll go insane? Well, that's the thing. That is a good point. That is a good counter. However, this isn't anything new to Trigon. Trigon himself, he's pretty insane. This dude torments people on a daily basis for fun. This dude is evil incarnate, and this dude, you could even argue he's insane himself. And this dude has resisted mind control. He's resisted basically having his will trying to be dampened or taken away from him. So I don't think that's going to really be an effective counter to Trigon, because of how Trigon is and Trigon's nature himself. You could just argue him being insane and him being just as crazy as Dormammu, so I don't really think that's going to be an issue at all. So I think he'd be able to absorb Dormammu's energy just fine, passively getting stronger, and he'd just be fine overall. The poison manipulation argument, he just killed the thing, he just set it on fire. I don't really think that's going to be an issue at all. Trigon will just destroy that thing. Dormammu does have transmutation. That could be an issue, you know, turning him to crystal or turning him to energy. However, Trigon himself can control his form, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. And plus, Trigon has replacements, type 8 mortality. Another Trigon can just step in and take it from there, so I don't think that's going to be a solid win con. As mentioned before, mind control, I don't think mind control is going to be an issue at all. Trigon's will is just way too strong, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. Sealing won't be an issue. Trigon will just break out. Existence erasure, again, Trigon is too necessary. As long as evil exists, Trigon will always come. The evil is still there, so therefore he'll just come back. I don't really see that being an issue at all. The power nullification point as well, I want to say this, Trigon could easily just reflect back the power nullification. Trigon himself has resistance to magic. Dormammu uses dark magic. He just reflected back, and he's resisted the nasty properties behind magic himself, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Now Dormammu, of course, if it comes down to situations where he's in danger. If Trigon tries to reflect back his own attacks on him, Dormammu does have the danger sense, his mystic senses. He could just avoid those attacks to try and give himself some composure. He'd definitely be able to avoid some of Trigon's attacks with the mystic senses. However, there's only so much the mystic senses can do, especially with a beast like Trigon. If Dormammu starts to feel, because obviously standard battle assumptions, no one's going to have any knowledge on each other, if Dormammu starts to feel like he's losing the fight. But of course, in this type of situation, Trigon will actually have knowledge on Dormammu thanks to his information analysis. So he'd be able to read Dormammu and understand what he's dealing with. So Trigon would basically be in the know, and he'd know what he's dealing with Dormammu, and he's not going to be surprised on what Dormammu has to basically offer to the table. And if it comes to a point where Dormammu starts to exhaust himself with his hexes, and if he starts to realize that he's losing the power game, he will resort to the Dark Dimensions. And of course, that's very counterintuitive. As mentioned, Trigon can just absorb the powers from that realm. And if he wanted to, Trigon could also literally just siphon that energy and just drain it into his hell. So he'd basically be game very strong as the fight progresses. So more often than not, I think as time progresses, I think Dormammu is eventually going to start running out of answers. Trigon will get in and he will kill Dormammu. However, we know that Dormammu has type A immortality. It's very difficult to kill himself. So it would more often not result in an incapacitation, or if not, Trigon himself could use his nasty hexes like the disperse atom ability. So he'd just basically leave Dormammu in a loop where he can't get out. He's just going to continue to be tormented. So that'd be an issue. So Trigon would pretty much either incapacitate or just torment and leave Dormammu in a state where he can't win, and therefore, being the dominant force in the fight, Trigon would take victory. So those are my reasonings. Trigon, I give victory to Trigon easily, high moderate difficulty, maybe higher. I just think overall Dormammu will start to run out of answers. He will exhaust his options. Trigon will resist his brunts. Trigon will get stronger. A lot of Dormammu's tactics are very counterintuitive and don't really work well for him. So that's why I give victory to Trigon. So let me know your thoughts on the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. I enjoyed making this matchup. But yes, it's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.